Hello Uplanders, I've been on the market for a new property and I just bought this one in Manhattan. I want to show you the thought process that I went through and some of the tools that I used to analyze the market here in Manhattan to determine that this tiny property of only 5 up squared, which I actually paid $58 for, is what I consider a bargain. I'm YK 2012, founder of the Upland Guide, and before I dive into this analysis, it's important for me to say I am not a financial advisor. None of this information is financial advice, and you should do your own research. All of the data that I have collected is from uplandoptimizer.com, where I have downloaded all the property for sales data in the city of Manhattan. Here we can see two different distributions. The one here on the top is for properties for sale in Manhattan in UPIX, and the one here on the bottom is for US dollars. I have also zoomed into a resolution that somewhat meets my budget, and I'm looking for something that's less than $100 in order to buy. I'm willing to invest some money if there's a good deal, so I'm not going to be picky as to whether the property is for sale in UPIX or if it's for sale in US dollars. My main takeaway from here is actually from these tables, looking at how many properties are for sale in each of these currencies. There are 6,000 for sale in UPIX, 2,200 for sale in US dollars, and I can also see the minimums. The minimum in US dollars is $56, and the floor price in UPIX is 94,000 UPIX. The metric of floor price does not say a heck of a lot about the market, and I'm not looking too much into that, and I'm not specifically looking to buy the floor price in this city. If you want to learn more about my analysis on why the floor price is not so meaningful, take a look at the link in the upper right-hand corner. Now, this is the graph that I've created that really helps me narrow down which properties I want to buy. What I have here on the x-axis are all of the different neighborhoods in the city of Manhattan ranked by most valuable to least valuable based on their initial neighborhood value. And the neighborhood value is the mint price divided by the up squared. So how valuable is each up squared in each neighborhood? So here the most valuable neighborhood is Soho, and the least valuable one is the East Village. On the y-axis, I have the sales price. And here on the graph itself, you can see that there are red dots and there are black dots. The red dots are properties that are being sold for US dollars, and the black dots are ones that are sold in UPIX. I have converted all the prices from dollars into UPIX, so if there is a property that is being sold for $70, on this graph it will actually be listed as 70,000. So I have here on the y-axis everything normalized to UPIX, and I can differentiate based on the different dots to know if I'm going to have to invest outside money with my US dollars or if I can buy with my UPIX. I've also zoomed this graph into my budget area, which is from 0 all the way up to, we can see here, 200,000 UPIX. So this is where I'm starting to look to see if I can find any deals. And what we can notice here naturally is that the most valuable neighborhoods have the highest floor prices compared to the least valuable neighborhoods where you can see a lot of dots. All of these dots represent a single property that is being listed for sale. So there are a lot of properties here that are for sale at a low price compared to what we see here in these more valuable neighborhoods. There are fewer properties for sale and their prices are in fact a lot higher. So I already showed you the property that I bought, and here on the graph, it's actually this one here. In Murray Hill, it is the cheapest property in that neighborhood, and as I mentioned, it cost $58, and that's one of the cheapest properties that are listed for sale in the city itself. Now, how did I get to the conclusion that this is the best one for me to buy? After all, we can see something similar here. In Gramercy, there is also a property that is very cheap, and it's in a neighborhood that is a lot more valuable. We also see a couple of properties here in East Village that are also fairly cheap. And just for comparison's sake, because people do like to look at the city floors, I'm going to look here at Washington Heights as well. So now that I've narrowed down a number of these neighborhoods that I'm interested in buying from, I've filtered all of the other ones out so I have a better view of only the ones that I want to compare. And I have also zoomed out in order to see the entire distribution. Now we can see here with this box plot, we have the minimum price for the neighborhood with this line. The beginning of the box is the 25th percentile. This line here represents the median price of properties for sale in that neighborhood. This is the 75th percentile, and the calculated maximum for Murray Hill is actually off the charts, but you can see here in Gramercy what it would look like. Now, the first thing that I noticed that makes Murray Hill stand out is that there are a lot fewer properties that are for sale, and the prices are a lot higher. And that I can see right away just by the height of this box. This box in Washington Heights is very, very squished together, and that's because the majority of the properties that are on sale are being sold very close to the floor price. Contrasting that with Murray Hill, you see this very large box, meaning that above this middle line, 50% of the properties are for sale are priced higher than this approximately 150,000 UPIX. Whereas in Washington Heights, we see that over 75% of the properties are priced below this 175,000 UPIX. Typically, when you're looking at the cheapest properties for sale in any city, it's probably representative of a neighborhood like this, where a lot of the properties are really trying to push the floor down. But if you do look at some of these other neighborhoods, you can see that there is a much wider distribution of properties that are for sale. And this, again, is not necessarily representative of what sells, but if you're looking at what the market is, this is one of the indicators. So now if I'm going to head and zoom back in to see a little bit more of my budget, which I'm looking to spend a little bit less than 100,000 UPIX, we can see here in Murray Hill and in Gramercy, there are very few properties that are very close to the floor price. In the first chart that I showed, which was the distribution, we saw that the cheapest property was actually $56. So here it's normalized to 56,000 UPIX, and that is actually here in Washington Heights. So if I wanted to buy the cheapest property, it would be one of these three. However, if we look at these other neighborhoods, we can see in Murray Hill the cheapest is $58, in Gramercy it's $57, and in East Village it's $58 as well. So these prices are very, very similar, and this $1 or $2 difference is not going to be a deal breaker for my decision. Now, I know I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I wasn't going to necessarily buy the floor price and the cheapest property, but I pretty much did end up doing that with buying this one in Murray Hill. Now, just by looking at this gap here in Murray Hill between the cheapest property of $58 and the second cheapest property, which is $120, this looks like a great value. Now, just from this analysis, it appears that someone might just be trying to sell this property quite quickly, and that is why he is listing it very close to the floor price. It's possible that that was the floor price when he listed the property, and maybe a few people came afterwards and also looked at the floor prices and then undercut him. That's one of the main reasons why I don't like looking at the floor price as a good indicator, because it's just people undercutting each other to make a sale quickly. So here I found something that if someone's looking for a property in Murray Hill, that there is this very large gap between the cheapest and the second cheapest property. So that is essentially the reason why I went and decided on buying this property. But for me, it's not enough just to look at the numbers. I want to look at where that property is on the map, and I want to compare it maybe to Gramercy, because in Gramercy we know that this neighborhood as a base is more valuable than that of Murray Hill. This is the 17th most valuable neighborhood in Manhattan compared to Murray Hill, which is 35th. So there is quite a large gap based on its rank. And I also want to go ahead and check out where this property is actually located on the map. So here looking at the map of Upland, we can see the neighborhood of Murray Hill here, which is directly south of the train station in Manhattan. And if we want to find the neighborhood of Gramercy, we can see that is a little bit further south. I already had one property in Murray Hill, and this is the one that I saw now priced for $58. So if I zoom in, we can actually see that this property is extremely small, only 5 up squared. And if you noticed, the analysis that I did not take into account the size of the property or what its initial mint price was. We can see here that its earnings are extremely low, and the original mint price of this property, I calculated it to be 2,600 UPIX. So it is evident that I am not looking to buy a property here in Manhattan based on its monthly earnings. Now you're probably thinking, what can you do with a property so tiny of only 5 up squared? Well, we do know that there are a new type of structure, which is a microhome. And unfortunately, I was not actually able to calculate or see if this microhome will actually fit on this property. So let's go ahead and do that right now. But even if I'm not able to put a property on here, I could still potentially use it to park a car or have some other outdoor decor. So that would be a nice option as well. Worst case scenario, I'm confident that I might be able to resell this property in the future based on the analysis that we just saw. So here we can actually see that this micro house is a lot bigger than what I can fit on this property. So I'm going to have to hope that maybe there will be an opportunity to park some cars or do something else with this property that will provide other value for me. I do like the fact that it is in close proximity to the train station. So just based on this analysis, I'm not even going to bother looking at exactly where that Gramercy property is located or how much its an original mint price was. I definitely like this property. I think it will have great value in the medium to long term. I'm not really looking to flip this very quickly. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my latest purchase. What do you think about me buying a property that tiny? And also, what do you think about buying up properties in Manhattan? I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. If you want to see some of my other analyses using these different types of graphs, continue watching one of these videos below.